Hello everyone, welcome to IAS Baba's 60 days rapid revision series for Prelims 2022. This is day 31 and we are taking up geography topics, oceanography and others. So those we'll be discussing here. And first one, a brief revision of ocean currents. Friends, traditionally speaking, these are one of the most important topics in geography. So we have a brief discussion on important ocean currents. So remember, at the earliest, that is in the northern hemisphere, the rotation of the ocean currents will be in the anti-clockwise direction, and in the southern hemisphere it will be the clockwise direction. So remember, north anti. Okay, so north anti 90, anything we can. And then coming from the eastern Pacific Ocean, so here remember Oyashio and Kuroshio currents and the meeting place, that is the famous place for fishing. And then we have Australia, we have East Australian current and the West Australian. So remember, the West Australian is a cold current and East Australian is a warm current. Or you can remember WC, that means West Australian cold current. WC, we can have a code. And then the Indian Ocean. So here, whenever the northeast monsoon is blowing, so this direction, so this triggers a clockwise direction of the currents. And whenever the southwest monsoon is blowing, it triggers the anti-clockwise direction. And whenever the southwest monsoon is blowing, so this agulas, so that will become a cold current. And now it is a warm current. And also remember the Mozambique current here. And then coming to the Atlantic Ocean, so here we have the famous Gulf Stream, and this Gulf Stream we have discussed, it will go on to the Norway to become a Norwegian warm current. And then here we have so many cold currents like the Labrador, Greenland, etc. So again remember this port, that is the Newfoundland and other areas, so they are also important for fishing. And then we have the South Atlantic Ocean. Here we have the Brazilian warm current and the Benguela cold current. Okay, so remember them. And then to the Pacific Ocean. So here we have the Peru cold current and the Californian cold current and the Alaskan warm current. And again, we will go with the anti-clockwise and the clockwise directions. Okay, so these are some of the currents. Then come to next, thermohaline circulation. Friends, here we have discussed that the ocean currents, they play only on the surface of water. But what happens in the beneath, that is below the surface of the ocean currents? So here, say for example, the Gulf Stream that moves here, and in the course of its movement, so here it is a warm current and it evaporates so much. And as and when evaporation takes place, the salt content will increase and the density of water increases. So here the water starts sinking, and as and when it sinks down, so it moves and it travels all through these areas. Okay, so here whenever it comes down and travels these areas, so these salts, they get dissolved with the pure water, and again the density reduces. So as and when it travels through longer distances, so its density reduces and then it comes to the surface again. And as and when it comes to the surface, so again with the warm currents, so they will join and they will move towards this Atlantic Ocean. So a cycle will be going on. So we can say it as a conveyor belt, say like the sinking of water at one place and upwelling or coming up at the other place. So that will be taking up, and this is the thermohaline circulation. And then come to next, the types of coral reefs. So here we have the fringe reefs, barrier reefs, atolls and patch reefs. So here we have a small difference, that is the fringe reef, it is called the boundary reef. Say for example, the reefs grow near the coastline around islands and continents, and they are separated from the shore by a narrow shallow lagoons. Okay, so the lagoons will be narrow and very shallow because at the very coast, at the very boundaries of the coasts, these fringe reefs, they will be present. And then we have the barrier reefs. So barrier reefs, they will not be exactly at the coast, so they will be a bit away from the coast. So here the lagoons, they will not be narrow, but they will be wider and deeper. So the barrier reefs are characterized by the wider and deeper lagoons. So such statements we can expect in UPSC. The fringe reef, they are characterized with the wider and longer lagoons. So false statement, because it is the barrier reef that have. And then atolls. So these are the rings of corals that create protected lagoons and are usually located in the middle of the sea. So for example, here if the depth ocean is there, so the corals will form a ring like this, and that is the atolls. Okay, so inside this we can have lagoon. And then patch reef. Patch reef means very irregular coral reefs, and they can form everywhere. And even in the edges of the fringe reef or the barrier reefs, we can have some small patches of corals, and they can form these patch reefs. So these are the ones. So within the concept itself, so one or the other trap will be hidden, and UPSC takes up that and it will ask a question, and our brain will be like, I have read it, but at that moment we are not getting. So we make sure that while studying itself, we will study with the UPSC's perspective. Then come to next, important glaciers of India. So here we have some of them. We will take up some others in the next class. So Hisper Glacier, Baltoro, Siachen Glacier, Gangotri, and Bandarpanch and Pindari Glacier. So how to do this? So have a pic of the Google Maps and then study. Say for example, here we have the Pindari Glacier, and this Pindari Glacier, so it is very nearer to Nanda Devi, and then we have the Trishul, and then Nanda Gunti and others. And you can locate Chamoli district here, Dwali, and any other important place you locate here, so that you can get some map works correct in the prelims. Say I have been saying whenever that Didwana Kuchuman, that question was asked in UPSC. So that means if you had just saw around the Sambar lake, so you would have got all those lakes. So that is why don't forget to see the nearby places. So along with this glacier, locate all these places. Then come to next. Here we have the Bandarpunch glacier. So very near to it, we have the Yamunotri glacier, and then we have the Mundaka Bugyal, and then the Yamunotri range is there here, and then the Rana Beat, others. So they are not so famous. And then in this part, if there are any important places, basically students from Himachal Uttarakhand region, so you can point them out. Then come to next, the Gangotri glacier. So here also it is very nearer to Kedarnath, and then it is very nearer to Brigupant, and we can also locate the Sri Kailash mountains and Pilapani Parbat. So near Pilapani, Kalapani, we can also remember it will be somewhere in the border of the Nepal and India. We have already discussed that. And then the Satopant, and then this side we have so many places. So if they are famous, so make sure that you will again remember. Then come to next, we have the Siachen glacier. So at the very middle of the India's head, the Siachen is present. Very near to it, so locate the Nubra river and the Nubra valley. So Nubra and Shiok, so they flow somewhere very nearer. And here some of the famous places, like we have the Diosai National Park, and then the K2, Mount K2 is present here. And then apart from that, there is Dras and Kargil here. So Dras, Kargil, they were again the important political sites and strategic sites also. And then Hunza river, and then Nanga Parbat we can locate here. Okay, so likewise we can have so many strategic places located around this Siachen. And then come to next, the Baltoro glacier. So very near to Baltoro, we have the Saltoro Kangri, and then we have the Mount K12. So that we locate here. And apart from that, K2 is here just above. So if K2 is here, so Siachen will be very nearer to Baltoro. And here we can also locate Shigar and other places. Then come to next, the Hipsar glacier. So Hipsar is also very near to Mount K2. And all these Hipsar, Baltoro, Siachen, so they all are located very next to each other. And again the Nubra river we can locate here, and the Nanga Parbat, Diosai, etc. So just make sure that the Hipsar, Baltoro, Siachen, so when we arrange from north to south or from east to west, so how you will arrange? So this, take it as an assignment and do it today itself. Then come to next, the ocean basins. So commonly ocean has several types of topographies. So we discuss from the land. So as and when we move down, so here we will get the continental shelf. So that will not be having so much of depth. And then after the continental shelf, we have the continental slope. So the slope starts and the depth increases. And once the depth is over, we will have a straightening of slope. So the slope will no more be going on. So it stops. At this point, we can have a continental rise. So that means the slope has stopped. And then after the continental rise, we have the abyssal plain. And here we can see the deep sea fan. So the alluvium that is coming here, so that can be deposited in the form of a fan, like the alluvium fan we have around the river deltas and others. And here we can have a ridge. So ridge means it is a mountain range, we can say a small mountain range, a minute one. And here we can have the volcanic islands and others. And again, don't forget to locate the continental crust and the ocean crust. So the continental crust, so that is having less density, ocean crust having more density, that's why it is located very behind. So we can locate the oceanic crust here. Okay, so likewise, so such questions also we can expect. Then come to next, the ocean basins. Moving further, so here we can locate the trenches and also the ridges and the rifts, and we can locate the volcanic islands. We can also locate the half-cut mountains due to erosion, that is the fjords, and then the sea mounts and others. So these are the oceanic topographies, again the simple ones. But again, the topography of the Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean and Indian Ocean, so that also we study. So here we have the mid-Atlantic ridge. So this ridge is formed due to diversion of plates. So here we can say, South American and African plates. So they are diverging, and as and when the divergence occurs, so here the lava oozes out and that gets deposited. Okay, so one phenomenon we got here, and apart from that, and apart from this ridge, so several islands are also located along the coasts of Africa and America. So all these we can locate here, and then come to next the Pacific Ocean. So here the ridges is not so profoundly present, but however we have the trench, so the Marina Trench and the Challenger Deep. So this is the defining characteristic of the Pacific Ocean. And here, apart from the Challenger Deep and the trenches, we can also locate some of the islands like the French Polynesia, Oceania. So basically the SIDS, the small island developing states. So those we can locate in these. And we can see how the trench is moving on from the American coasts, and then it is entering Asia, and then it is coming down again. So this is the Pacific Ocean, and then come to next the Indian Ocean. So here we have two ridges, one that is going down the Arabian Sea in the western part of India and the other one in the eastern part. Okay, so here also we can look at various islands like the Maldives, then Socotra, and then the Seychelles, Mauritius, and others. So make sure that all these they lie here, and locate them and try to arrange them from north to south, and also try to locate the Chagos archipelago and others. And coming to the eastern part, so here we can also have the Java, Sumatra, Malaya, and then the Andaman Nicobar Islands. So all these we can locate here. So these are the ocean topography of various oceans. Then come to next IMO and MARPOL. So the International Maritime Organization, known as the Intergovernmental Maritime Consultative Organization. So this is a specialized agency of United Nations responsible for the regulating the shipping industries. And here we have various conventions that are running under IMO. So the International Convention for Safety of Life at Sea, that is the SOLAS, and then the International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping of Seafarers. So for seafaring, again there is one more convention. So how the ship captains and how the workers inside the ship they should be, and what are their skills and how they have to be certified. So all those. And then the International Convention for Prevention of Pollution from Shipping. So MARPOL again is one more. So it is attached to environment and ecology. Again it becomes important. Then FAL Convention, that is Facilitation of International Maritime Traffic. So to avoid the collision and the oil spills. So all these. So these are some of the treaties that are affiliated to the IMO. And here whenever you read any conventions, so two important clauses we have to look into from the UPSC's perspective, that is whether it is legally binding or whether India is a member for that. Yes, India is a member for IMO and it is a member since 1959. And also IMO has many conventions which are legally binding. So here IMO says that if more than 50% of the members, if they ratify, then it becomes legally binding. So in that case, MARPOL, it is a legally binding agreement. So these two clauses, if you search in all conventions, so then in the prelims, you can get most of the questions correct. Then come to next, the UNCLOS, that is the United Nations Convention for Law of Seas. So this, also known as the Law of Sea, divides the marine areas into 5 zones, namely the internal waters, then territorial sea, then contiguous zone, and exclusive economic zone, and the high seas. So here we have the territorial sea, that is 12 nautical miles, and then we have the contiguous zone and the exclusive economic zone, and we also have the legal continental shelf here, and then the high seas, that is the deep oceans. So remember the convention and the classifications. Then come to next, the ISA. So friends, one question was asked in the 2021 prelims regarding the polymetallic nodules. So there the ISA was not given. So instead of that, the Ocean Commission was given. So mark such differences. Here the International Seabed Authority was formed as an initiative for controlling mineral related activities in the international seabed area. So everything, exploration of minerals and then harnessing them. So all these are looked after by the ISA. So mark it as important. And then come to next, landslides and flood early warning system. So CSIR, that is the National Geographic Research Institute under CSIR, has launched Environmental Seismology Group, so a scientific group, and it aims to develop a landslide and flood early warning system for the Himalayan region based on the real-time monitoring. And then it consists dense seismological networks coupled with satellite data, numerical modeling, and others. So not so important for us. And then this would enable a crucial warning several hours prior to. So a increased golden hour and golden time can be obtained. Now, the National Geophysical Research Institute is constituted under the CSIR. So friends, here we have to remember one thing, like we have two ministries which are specific for this environment. One is the Ministry of Science and the other is the Ministry of Earth Sciences. So don't get confused. This National Geophysical Research Institute is under the CSIR. That means it comes under the Ministry of Science or the Department of Science and Technology. It will not come under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. So have that classification, because wherever there are gray areas, UPSC tends to ask a question there. Then come to next, Samudrayaan. So it is a pilot project of Ministry of Earth Sciences. See, now the Ministry of Earth Sciences came for the deep ocean mining for rare minerals. Then it proposes to send men into deep sea in a submersible vehicle for ocean studies. So they are going in submarine. Then the project is expected to become a reality by 2021-22. The project has been undertaken by the National Institute of Ocean Technology. So remember NIOT, and now the National Geophysical Research Institute is in Department of Science, and this National Institute of Ocean Technology is under Ministry of Earth Sciences. Then significance of this Samudrayaan. So if it is successful, India will join the League of Developed Nations in the exploration of minerals. So not so important for prelims perspective. India could be the first developing country to undertake such a project. So this first is important. So here, once you read a paragraph, you will get to know whether there is a gray area where UPSC can pose a question, and you will mark it and revise. So if you read with that critical mindset, so then prelims will but obvious be a easy exam. So follow that. Then come to next, the Kalanamakrice. So here the production of Kalanamakrice has increased significantly during the last 3 years, and presently Kalanamakrice is being exported to the countries like Singapore, Nepal, etc. Then Kalanamak is one of the finest quality scented rices of Nepal and India, and Kalanamakrice has been granted the geographical indication tag for Nepal. So the Nepal GI tag, not India. Then this variety has been cultivated since Buddhist periods. So long back it has been cultivated, and then it is quite popular in the Terai region. So mark it as important. Then come to next. It was also featured in the book Specialty Rices of the World by FAO. So remember the book name and the organization. So Food and Agriculture Organization came up with this book, and this has the Kalanamak rice. Then rich in micronutrients such as iron and zinc. So therefore it can cure all deficiency diseases causing by the deficiency of iron and zinc. So again, a basic meaning. And it is said that the regular intake of Kalanamak rice can prevent Alzheimer's syndrome. So again, it is a probabilistic, but still Alzheimer's syndrome, the cases of Alzheimer's is being rising day by day. Again, it is worth remembering. Then it has low glycemic index. So that means the glucose content is very much low here. So again, remember the diabetic patients, they cannot intake the food which is having high glycemic index. So that is why for the diabetes patient, as a sugar-free rice, Kalanamak can be a best food. And then come to next, the bomb cycle. So bombogenesis is the technical term, and bomb cycle is a shortened version of it. So what is this bomb cycle? It is a mid-altitude cyclone that intensifies rapidly. So usually the temperate cyclones will not intensify rapidly, but this, despite being in temperate, it intensifies. Then it has low pressure at the center, and it also has weather fronts, and it is also characterized by an array of associated weather. So it has a specific characteristic weather conditions whenever it comes, and then also it is characterized by the formation of blizzards and also severe thunderstorms and also heavy precipitation. So we know that heavy precipitation is a characteristic of the tropical cyclone. So why this? The tropical like cyclone is happening in temperate region. So that is the point of discussion here. So that is, generally a bomb cyclone happens when atmospheric pressure in the middle of the storm drops at least 25 millibars over 24 hours. So when there is a sudden drop in the pressure within the small duration of time, so this temperate cyclone, it gains intensity. It acts like a tropical cyclone. However, the difference is very simple. It is like this bomb cyclone, they happen in temperate zone, and the hurricanes, they happen in the tropical zone. And also the bomb cyclones, so they form during winter, and however the hurricanes, they form during the spring. Then come to next, the tectonic evolution of the greater Maldive ridge. So here we have the Maldivian ridge, and the scientists, they say that this Maldivian ridge, so it is not formed due to any seismic activity. So that is the folding, faulting, so such things have not happened in this region. Then how this ridge has been formed? So the Maldivian ridge is an aseismic ridge that is not associated with the earthquake activities. And recently the researchers, they say that the Maldivian ridge might have been formed in the close vicinity of the mid-oceanic ridge, where the divergent plates were in action. So they were a creation of a new ocean floor due to the divergent motion of the lithospheric plates. So might be here some divergent plate action might have occurred, and as and when the plate diverged, the lava might have oozed out and thereby the formation of ridge. So here not the folding or faulting, but the divergent plate is under action. So that if you remember, that is more than enough. And also compare the same with the mid-Atlantic ridges also. Then come to next. Then Qeqertaq Avannarleg. So what is this? It is a tiny uninhabited and previously unknown island discovered recently off the coast of Greenland. So here we can look at this, the island which is just to the north of Greenland and measuring 16 to 30 meters and with a peak of 3 meters above the sea level. It is now become the new northernmost piece of the land on earth. So apart from Arctic, so this is the northernmost piece in the earth. Then before this, Udak was marked as the earth's northernmost terrain. So earlier Udak was there and now this has overtaken that. Then the discovery comes as a battle is looming among the Arctic nations like the US, Russia, Canada, etc. So they are fighting for Arctic and other regions for in search of the petroleum crude and others. So that is why now the discovery of island, so that becomes important. So remember the name and the significance. So that is more than sufficient. You can always get a question like Qeqertaq Avannarleg. So it is associated with which of the following. So that was all about today. Then come to the last part. Friends, many of you are wasting time by revising the same thing again and again, again and again. So here my suggestion is, so 3 to 4 times revision is more than sufficient. If you do that, cut down the revision and go for the critical approaches. So solve some tests and make sure that you analyze. Say for example, if you solve 2 hours test, you have to take 4 hours for analysis, like where I have gone wrong. So why there is a difference between my perspective and examiner's perspective. So was there any difference in the perspective or am I mistaken? So is my concept wrong or might be like am I confused or is my revision correct or should I revise more? So all these analysis you will get only when you take up the mock test. So now it is time to go for the full length mock test. So keep the environment as much very similar to the UPSC prelims exam hall so that you will have a best simulation. Okay, so the great saying goes, if you want to double the success rate, you have to multiply your failure rate. So make sure that you fail again and again, and then in UPSC there is no chance of failure, you will hit a success. So do it. All the very best. Good luck, friends.